Okay, so we're on the next stage, and it's September the 30th, 2016, and thankfully we have two more of our very good farmer friends, Rod and Julie Calderpot, and you guys have come here today because we're preparing for next year. We have 11 months still to go, but we need to pick and start pressing our apples today. But also we need your advice, Julie, on how to make your fantastic apple syrup.
Met Evan a few years ago because we're both Brook Lodge and ourselves are very closely involved with the organic movement, and we're very dedicated to it. And Evan's been a great help in that. So consequently, Evans invited me or asked me if I wouldn't give him a little bit of help and advice, because they're doing the 0 miles dinner next year. I find this very, very exciting because it's a big challenge for Evan to do. And so he has a very nice orchard, which I've been watching develop over the last few years. Still young, going to develop into something very exciting over the next few years, but he's got enough fruit now to make some nice apple juice and some nice cider. So the challenge really is to getting the blend of all the different apples. You know, you've got to get the blend of tannins, of aromas, of sugars, and of acidity to get a nice cider.
What we'll do today, if you wouldn't mind, is we'll go down through the old orchard, the herb garden orchard, and the new orchard, which we're very excited about. The crab apples are down there, and I know you've talked to us previously about using crab apples for cider, Rod. We've made our own cider before. Yeah. It's been okay.
Half and half, yeah.
The guys here make fantastic cider.
Well, thanks for coming, Rod and Julie. I know you guys do the best cider up there. It's, you know, all we need is your assistance in, you know, crushing our apples, fermenting our apples, and how to make cider as good as your cider for our dinner next year.
Yeah, well, there's no problem. I've been watching your new orchard coming on and admiring it. You know, you've got a good terroir here for apples, and I think you've got a nice mix of apples. You know, we need to get all the different flavors that go to making a good cider. You know, plenty of tannin, plenty of acidity, plenty of aroma and sweetness. And I think we'll work with your, you know, you've got a nice selection of apples there. We'll work with them and hopefully we'll get a really good cider going.
I'm here today to help with the apples. One of the problems of 0 miles, I think, is the sugar. We can't go flying around the world getting sugar, so where are we looking is the natural sugar of the apple. So I think this is why they probably asked me to come here and look at our orchard syrup. And so orchard syrup is just apples. So we're going to collect some of the apples from Macreddin's wonderful orchard and work in the kitchens here today and put it together and heat it up and make it a most incredible sweetener which can be used across the board for the menu.
I like your biodynamic approach. I don't like interfering with nature. I mean, apple juice doesn't want to be apple juice, you know, it wants to be cider. And you've never sprayed anything here, you're completely organic. So you will have no problem, your natural yeasts will be there in abundance, and don't mess with them, you know.
And Sri wants to know, you're going to be on the phone advising, etc. Sri, during the course of the fermentation, etc. And what happens, Rod, if the cider that you advise on here is as good as or better than, what do we do?
I don't know.
Do we keep quiet about it?
No, I'll commit keri-keri. I'll just let you cross out. Out of honour.
But don't do it until after the 0 kilometre dinner, because you know you're going to be at it.
So we have the old orchard here behind us. It's probably 60 to 70 years old, of which it doesn't crop so much. So around 3 or 4 years ago, myself and Evan decided to plant a new orchard. So we discussed and planned what we would put in, and made a list basically of apple trees, pear trees, damsons, plums, fruit bushes, and proceeded from there.
The other thing actually that occurred to me is that he's going to be using his natural yeasts, obviously, because he's not allowed to import any yeast. Everything has to be 0 miles. So when he racks the cider off, once it's finished fermenting, he's going to have plenty of yeast left there that he can use for his breads and so on. So yeah, it's an honour and a privilege to be asked to do this very exciting thing. And I'm full of admiration for the way Brook Lodge take up these challenges for themselves.
And so what we've got to now is the pulp.
Yeah, this is exciting, isn't it?
We're going to press that,
Yeah.
and then I think afterwards we'll have a taste rod and just see how it pans out. You
And
can
this
give
is
us
a nice
advice.
blend of your
It's a
your various
mixture of,
apples,
that
yeah.
you were talking about earlier on, the crab apple, the cider apple, and the old-fashioned Bramleys,
That's great.
etc.
So here
Okay,
comes the
so
moment.
let's throw it in there, Jeff, and I
Pulped
think,
it nicely there. You've got plenty of
yeah.
juices, not too much work for the press to do. You should get about 50%, 50 to 60%,
Are you serious?
I imagine.
Yeah?
You should do, yeah.
I think it's very important that we get this right. We've made apple juice before and cider before, but I
Yeah.
think you've been here and having to taste this and advising us
Exactly, yeah.
over the course of the next
We want to
year.
make sure we got the
as to-
blend right.
Yes,
And
yes,
what's going to survive the fermentation, the different flavours and the different aromas and that sort of thing.
yes.
Yeah. That was a nice run of coming there now.
Brilliant. And it's still flowing out there, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, going nicely.
Nice colour on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, will we have a taste of it coming out in some glasses here, guys?
Yeah, lovely
nice.
appley flavour, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's lovely.
I think we could put in a few more Bramleys, get a bit more acidity. Put in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit more cider apples in there to get a bit more
Cider
tannin in it.
and Bramley.
Do you taste a lot of tannin
Yeah.
there?
But it's so good when
Oh,
it's
it's
fresh,
gorgeous.
isn't it? It's
That's-
so good.